Wagwan people, what you saying? It is I, Diligent Fingers, and welcome to another episode of the Viewpoint podcast. I'll warn you from the start, this one's going to be more of a ramble, more of just a stream of consciousness rather than, a fully thought out sort of podcast and that, But I think it's significant for me to do. It feels significant for me to do because of a couple of realizations that I've made today, a couple of conversations that I've had, and some news that I've had. I found out today that a friend of mine had passed away, and I'm led to believe that it is due to the mental health problems that he was suffering with. As well as other things going on in his life, and obviously this whole COVID-19 situation isn't really helping matters. I can imagine that a lot of people are depressed right now, and rightly so. We're in very crazy and uncertain times right now. And there is part of me that didn't want to do this because I didn't want to make this all about me, and but I suppose every time you hear or someone close to you passes away, it does make you reflect inwards. It does make you think about your own life. It does make you think about your own situation that you're in. It does make you sort of change your perspective, or situations like that end up putting things into perspective for you, and that really. The thing that I wanted to talk about today is self-worth, self-value, because I think I can assume for a lot of people that suffer with mental health issues, whether it be PTSD, depression, anxiety, or some of the more sort of commonly known diagnosis of schizophrenia, bipolar, and things like that, there is an element of lack of self-worth that ends up being developed when you're dealing with these things. Sometimes they are brought on just through life situations. Sometimes they are brought on just from the diagnosis and sort of figuring out what your place in the world is, knowing that you have this thing that by all accounts is something wrong with you. Regardless of how you may want to dress it up, you still end up feeling as though something is wrong with you. After speaking to my therapist a couple of days ago, and then having a couple of conversations today, I started to realize, what could be the stem, the root of, my depression, my mental health issues that I have. The PTSD is a completely different thing. It has ended up exacerbating the depression, but the depression is something that I know that I've been, trying to deal with and trying to fight through for a very, very long time, since my teenage years. And it all stems from one situation, and it always ends up coming back to that situation, regardless of whether I'm talking to my therapist or talking to friends or anything like that. I'm sure I've said this before. So I'm always fearing that I'm sounding like a broken record with some of these things and stuff. But, at a very young age, I found out that, I was conceived from a very horrible situation. I was conceived from rape, and I apologize to my mother, all the times that I have brought this up. I know this is your business, but it is my business as well. I don't mean that in a bad way, but it is something that has, ended up affecting me my whole life. My problem has always been, because of that, I never really had any sort of value in myself. I ended up putting all of my self-worth in other people, my value in other people. And I suppose with COVID-19 going on, do you know what I mean? With all of us being in quarantine, and it's sort of catching up with me how much, over the years of dealing with this depression, these walls that I've put up, these sort of barriers and things that I've put up, these sort of principles that I've made up for myself over the years, and sort of rules that I've lived by that I've ended up changing because of certain big changes that have happened in my life, and that, you know, it's not that I'm proud or anything like that to say that, I'm not on very good terms with my family. I only say that just to sort of put it out there that, this dream family unit, do you know what I mean? Family is everything. Doesn't always work for everybody. And also to further the point that everyone's situation is unique to them. No person's mental health issues or life situations are, exactly the same and stuff. But the reason why that is significant is because when I was told that at a young age, obviously it took a few years for me to understand what the words meant, what rape meant, what being a half brother meant, what sort of the toll it takes on people to go through situations like that, to go through traumatic situations like that. It's what led me to the realization that, or what led me to believe that my mum was still suffering from PTSD, and I could possibly be a trigger. Seeing my face could possibly be a reminder to my mother, do you know what I mean, of what has happened and stuff like that. And as much as she may tell me, or upon hearing this, she may want to tell me that, that does not happen. Nothing like that has happened. She does not see me in that way. Once that idea is in your own head, it's hard for you to be convinced otherwise. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you understand, what someone can go through after experiencing something like rape, something like sexual abuse. Do you know what I mean? So when I was told that at a very young age, and then over the years sort of starting to understand what that word meant and what the psychological toll that can take on people, I started to develop this value in my family. We came from a working class area. We didn't have much money. The story with working class people. We don't have much to begin with. We come from the dirt and that, and we had to work very hard and fight through a lot of things to, even just get to the point where we are at today. Add to the fact that we're black. Do you know what I mean? We were a black family and that, and, just the complications, the stigma, the prejudice that can bring and that, within itself and stuff, whether it is, through actual, racism and discrimination, or the psychology of knowing that can happen. Do you know what I mean? And that can happen to you as a black person and that, So I put a lot of value of myself in my family. Do you know what I mean? Being the firstborn and coming from a situation like rape, I ended up putting a lot of faith and value within my family because I didn't see any value in myself. I was a mistake. That is the only black and white. Take away the niceties, take away, trying to change your perspective on things and stuff like that. The black and white of it is, I was a mistake. And I came from a bad situation. Do you know what I mean? I was not brought into this world with intention and with love behind that intention. Love grew I'm thankful to my mother that she didn't abort me. Do you know what I mean? And she didn't treat me in any other way. If I was a trigger for her or anything like that, she certainly did not show it. And and she brought me up the best way that she could. And I feel like she brought up an intelligent, polite, thoughtful, do you know what I mean, young man. Like, she brought up a good boy. Do you know what I mean? I believe myself to be a good boy for my mum. Do you know what I mean? I hope I've not caused us too much stress over the years, but I put a lot of I wanted to be the sort of beacon of light for my family, especially as like my siblings came into the world, and as life went on, the more sort of trials and tribulations that we went through as a family. Do you know what I mean? I'm not gonna say that we've had the hardest life or anything like that, but we've been through some shit. Individually as well as a family, like we've been through some shit, most definitely. you know. But as I got younger brothers, younger sisters, do you know what I mean? As the family home sort of started to break down and stuff because things started to go wrong. I remember things going wrong for my family when my mum and my dad, who was my stepdad, and because of the divorce, but they were going through a divorce, and as a result of the divorce proceedings, that's how I got to find out the truth about myself. Do you know what I mean? And how I came into this world. The more things started to go wrong, the more I started to put value in my family and try and be the beacon of light for my family. Valuing education, valuing work, do you know what I mean? Valuing being able to provide for my family and things like that, and, trying to be as far away as any of the men that had caused harm to anybody in my family as I possibly could. In that. Now I'm not, for me to say that I'm no longer in contact with my family means that I don't have a perfect family. I'm not going to say that I held them to too high of standards or anything like that. Family is family. You forgive a lot of what your family does. Do you know what I mean? Nobody can say that, do you know what I mean, they hold their family members to the highest standards that they would hold anybody else. Anybody who says that, is telling lies. Do you know what I mean? Unless it comes to really breaking the law, like murder and things like that, then that's a completely different conversation. Do you know what I mean? But little white lies, little crimes, and this, that, and the other. No family is perfect. Do you know what I mean? There is nobody who can really cast a stone within this world when it comes to forgiving their family for certain things that they would not forgive a normal man off the street for. Of course they're going to do that. It's your family. You hold your family in a completely different group to everybody else because they are your family. And that, so I'm not. So I say all of that to say that my family was not perfect, and it wasn't necessarily that I was holding my family to any kind of higher standards or anything like that. Again, I knew what my family had gone through. We had not had the best start. We'd as a family, we'd gone through a horrible divorce, and it had ended up breaking up the family unit. And that, because as a result of a very, very bad and messy divorce, quite a violent, do you know what I mean, an abusive divorce on my father's hands, my stepdad's hands, we ended up going into the system. We ended up going into the care system. So with me being the oldest, of course, that further meant that I had to be the responsible one. I had to be the beacon of light and look after my younger family members, protect them. Do you know what I mean? Look out for them. Do you know what I mean? And try and keep us close and that. But then even that broke down because my brothers and sisters ended up going back to their fathers, and I ended up staying in foster care in that. So there was a lot of breakages within the family unit, and there was a lot of times where, through no control of our own, we had to break up. There had to be breakages and stuff like that. And I say all of that to say I understood that. I can't hold my family to higher standards than I would hold anybody else, because I understand what we went through as a family, and that. So, and with me being the oldest, and there was a lot of times growing up where I was considered the favorite, because I was the firstborn, so to speak. There was other things involved in it as well, maybe because of how I was conceived. That's something that always plays on my mind when I hear the word favorite. Do you know what I mean? Is that anything to do with it? As well as other things, losing family members before I was born, so I kind of replaced them in a way and stuff, which is, there's nothing wrong. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But it's just sort of explaining the sort of mental dynamic that I had with the word favorite when it came to my family. But that also sort of reinforced that, okay, there was a dependence on me. There was an expectation for me to do well, to excel in some sort of way. And I found music, and I'm doing really well in terms of music. Do you know what I mean? I'm creating music that I love, and I'm working with, some really talented people and stuff. In terms of success, other people, everybody has their own way of measuring success. So for me, that is success, for being able to create the music that I love and to work with people, work with talented people. That is success to me. Money doesn't really come into it. Do you know what I mean? But I digress. Education became a big thing in terms of, being a beacon of light. Work became a big thing, being able to provide and things like that. And the more we went through family situations, do you know what I mean? Really bad family situations that were either put on us or that we created for ourselves, the more there was a sort of bigger sort of attachment to my family, and a bigger sort of value that I put on them. Well, if I can do better, then I can help my family out more. Do you know what I mean? I can try and, show my brothers and sisters the way, or, I can help them with money and stuff like that. But we're going to fall out. We're not going to see things eye to eye all of the time. We're going to have different perspectives. We're all individuals at the end of the day. And I say all of this to sort of explain how much of a worth dependency there was on my family, because of how much of a lack of value that I had in myself because of how I was conceived. And then for that to disappear, for us to get to a point where we can't really communicate anymore, we can't really be around each other anymore or anything like that, for that to disappear was a really big thing. It is a really big thing, and it's something that I've been grappling with for the last sort of 5 to 6 years, really. Because maybe it's shorter than that. It feels like it's around 5 years that we've not been in contact with each other. And then hearing the news about a friend of mine losing their life, and knowing, the mental health issues that he was going through. Not exactly, but I know that, he wasn't well. I know that he had, issues, he had problems, and stuff like that. I didn't know how much he was being helped with it or anything like that. You know what I mean? But knowing that, he's not here anymore, it does make you reflect inwards. It does make you sort of look at your own life. And I started to, as we all do when it's somebody that we know and someone that we're close to, you start to look back over past situations that you've had with that person. Do you know what I mean? And you start to question whether you did enough to help them, whether you were there enough, to help them not get to that point of, taking their own life, or it being in a situation where their life could be taken away. And that, I'm only saying this because I don't know as it stands at this time of recording, I don't know the full details of, why he died, why my friend died. But from what's been said, do you know what I mean? I'm under the impression that it was to do with, his mental health. So, as we all do, we try and find someone to blame, and we always end up looking inward first. Do you know what I mean? And stuff. And there's been a period where I've been struggling a lot with my mental health. No one would really know it because, I don't really talk to people about it and stuff. But I've been struggling a whole lot recently with my mental health, and sort of the fact that so much of the focus is on me, because all of my focus used to be on my family. All of my focus used to be on the people that I cared about. That used to be my main distraction. Too much of a distraction at a lot of times, to the point where I hardly focused on me, and there's been a sort of crisis of identity that has been going on, but today, with this situation, I started to really look inward and started to look out and sort of question whether I was really being there enough for other people, and sort of comparing myself to how I was before and how much I would try and be there for my friends and for my family, and how much has changed, how much I've closed myself off, how much I've ended up isolating myself and spending more and more time by myself because of a lack of trust in people, because I'd fallen out with the people that were closest to me, my family, because that had happened. Obviously, things are going to change, and because I went through a traumatic situation, not long ago, of course, that's going to end up, bringing up trust issues and paranoia and stuff. So I started to question whether I'd been there enough for my friend and that, and remembering, at one time that we had fallen out, and because we had fallen out, it had completely changed the dynamic between us and that. And I remember it being at a time where my mental health was really at an all-time low, and my psychosis was really becoming overwhelming. I'm having a lot of psychotic episodes. I'm having a lot of nightmares, and that. And when I say psychotic episodes, I mean in terms of flashbacks and stuff like that. And stuff, and my perspective is changing because the traumatic situation was involving family members. My perspective on family and certain family members, and in terms of people in trust, was completely changing. So when we fell out, it ended up being a bigger thing than it would have normally have been. And it really started making me think about how much things have changed when since really sort of starting to focus on, recovering from all of these mental health issues that I have got and stuff, and how much I've closed myself off, how much more I do talk about mental health, because I'm starting to understand my own mental health a lot more, but how much I realize that I'm not as available to people as I was before and stuff. There was a period, I say there was a period, but I've been feeling like a bit of a hypocrite, in the sense of, the things that I tell people to do in terms of reaching out, speaking to people and things like that, finding people that you can trust, that you can confide in and really talk to. They're the main things that I don't do. You know what I mean? And it's been a long time of doing that. I wouldn't necessarily even say it's down to toxic masculinity even. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've just never really given myself that option of really being able to like be there for myself. And now that I have to do that now, and I'm not able to be there for other people, you know, and having to open up in ways that I never used to before, it does all boil down to that lack of self-worth. You know, people say to me that, you know, I need to find the value in the things that I am there for. Like, I am there for, I have been there for people. I am a good friend, or at least I hope I'm a good friend. Like, there's not, you know, too many people that think I'm an absolute dickhead, you know, but, you know, but I hope I'm a good friend. I hope, you know, people feel that I have an understanding, do you know what I mean? And, you know, I will take the time to listen, and if I can help, then I will help, kind of thing. You know, I hope people think that I'm a good person, do you know what I mean? I try to be a good person and stuff, but the sort of motivation and reasonings for that are not necessarily because I don't want to. I do want to be a good person, especially because of life situations that I've been through and things that my family have been through. Of course, I want to be a good person because I don't want to be anything like the bad people that have hurt my family. But the value of that was never in terms of for me. It was always for the sake of my family, you know, and for the people that I cared about. And it was never because I am here and, you know, anything like that. It was more as a sort of justification for me being here. You know, it was almost like I felt like I'm just taking up space. Do you know what I mean? Maybe somebody else's space that should be here instead of me because I was a mistake. Do you know what I mean? I was kind of forced to come into this world. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, some people can say that we're all forced. You know, no child has a choice to, you know, be born or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? The choice is made by other people and stuff, you know. But I kind of feel like you understand where I'm coming from in terms of when I say forced into this world, you know. So because of that, there's no sort of positive worth or value I can really take from that unless I put that in other people. And, you know, the closest people I can put that in is my family, you know. And because they're not there anymore, it's made me sort of reflect. It's made me sort of had to look inwards. It's made me had to look back on past events. Do you know what I mean? And try and sort of really decipher, okay, outside of my family, who am I? Who is, you know, Leighton? Who is Dilly? Do you know what I mean? If those things didn't happen, do you know what I mean, in my life, if I didn't go through those situations, do you know what I mean, what type of person would I be? Do you know what I mean, outside of that? Because they're all horrible situations that no one should really have to go through. But life is life. Do you know what I mean? You know, nobody really has a choice in terms of what really happens to them and what type of life they're really going to have, you know. So I am thankful that I'm here. I am thankful that I have been able to be of some sort of value to my family. Do you know what I mean? I'm thankful for the experiences that I've had because I am thankful for the person that I am. But it's hard to put value in me when most of that has come from the situations that people around me have been through or I myself has been through at the hands of other people. You know, it's hard to sort of place value in that when it's just me, myself and I have to look inwards and try and find reasons to love myself. You know, it's hard not to associate the good values that I have with traumatic situations, with bad experiences that I've had in my life. because it's because of those bad experiences that I've had that have helped me to become the person that I am today. And I'm not, I'm not no angel, but I wouldn't say I'm a horrible person. And there's a part of me that is, sort of looking upwards. I question you a lot, God, but if there is a God, I'm not too big on the idea of you being a he, and I'm not too big on the, the Bible version of whatever you may be up there, but whatever you are, you must be guiding me and watching over me in some way, shape or form, because I know a lot of people I know of many people that have been through situations like me and my family have been through, and things have not turned out very well for them, in the aftermath of these things. I could things could have gone very, very west for me, and I could very well not even have the intelligence and the brain capacity that I feel like I have. Do you know what I mean? Because of, and if it wasn't for whatever seems to be going on, do you know what I mean? Whether it's the fortitude, whether it's the resilience that I've developed, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? It's trying to find the value in that I can actually place on myself, because it's hard for me to pick out the good things about myself without them being attached to bad things. It's just really hard to be able to do that, especially when my whole conception is from a very, very horrible, traumatic and abusive situation and stuff, So I think these things that have happened recently, and, the passing of my friend, has really sort of helped to sort of bring these things to light and that, because when I heard about my friend passing away, I could not help but try and put myself in his position, and I've been there a few times in terms of trying to take my own life, trying to check out early from this world, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? And so when I heard about my friend, I couldn't help but put myself back in that place. Do you know what I mean? To try and understand where he might have been. Do you know what I mean? And to understand, okay, why didn't we ask those questions? Why didn't he believe in himself? Why didn't he have value in himself? Do you know what I mean? And of course, you're going to revert back to yourself. Well, who am I to say this? Of course, you're gonna ask yourself those questions if you're gonna try and answer questions for somebody that can't answer them for you. Hopefully that makes sense, because I'm trying to think if that was an actual sentence or not there. But I hope you get what I mean. Like, he's not here to tell me why what happened had to happen, and why he had to leave this earth so early. He's not here to tell me that. So we're all here trying to answer these questions ourselves. And I didn't want, there's a part of you that doesn't want to make it about yourself, but you can't help but make it about yourself, especially if you can relate to what that person was going through. It's true that we never know what is actually going on with the other person. We never know. Because up until now, I thought he was all right. I thought he was doing okay. The last time I'd seen him, it was all smiles and stuff like that. I thought he was okay. But in the same breath, if anyone was to ask my friends or my family if they knew exactly what was going on with myself, they wouldn't be able to tell you. Because I am the last person to actually open up and reach out to people in that, and the problem that I'm having with myself, and probably another reason that I'm giving myself to beat up myself is that I used to be able to be there for people before, and I'm not now, or at least I'm not as much now. I feel like I wasn't there for my friend. I'm trying to figure out why. And it does all come down to how much value, how much worth, how much love you have for yourself. And I'm realizing I have very little. I've had very, very little love for myself. Enough for me to not want to cause pain at the moment for anybody else that I care about, and enough for me to not want to hurt the people that I love in a way of taking myself off the scoreboard. But outside of that, I don't have a lot of love for myself. And it's weird in terms of being an artist, in terms of being any kind of vocal person, even doing something like this, a podcast talking about my own mental health issues and stuff like that. It's weird when people end up putting value in you for doing these things, whether it's making music, whether it's making films, whether it's being an entertainer or any kind of public figure. When you feel so low about yourself, but other people feel so highly of you, and that it's a weird sort of conflicting thing to deal with, especially if you're not at the point where you can at least start to begin to put as much value in yourself as other people do. And I was happy when it was my own family. That was enough. You know what I mean? They're my flesh and blood. Do you know what I mean? They're the people that have brought me up, you know? And, you know, if it was anybody else, then it's a bonus kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? But it was always because of something that I did, not because of me as a person. It was always, I would always put it down in my head, well, I'm trying to be a good friend, and if they appreciate that, then that's why they like me, rather than me as a person, me as a human being on this earth. They just like me for me. Do you know what I mean? And not like it's weird, man. It's weird trying to flip your own perspectives on how you see yourself when you've seen yourself in such a bad light for such a long time. It's more than weird. It's more than weird. It's heartbreaking, but I'm used to it. That's why I can only come up with things with like it's weird. Like I'm because I'm used to it. I'm so used to it. I don't know any different. But I'm having to learn and know and experience different now, because how my life was for 30 odd years is completely changed. I've got no one else to put the focus on except me. I don't like the focus on me. As much as I may put things out there to draw attention to myself, I don't like it. I don't like it. Like, I'm not comfortable with it. It's like, it's weird. I'm thankful for it when people are genuine and show genuine appreciation and love. I'm thankful for it. Like, I'm so grateful for it. Trust me. And I try and sort of reciprocate that as in the best way that I can. But when you just don't have a high opinion of yourself, when you just don't feel great about yourself, when you just don't love yourself, nothing's really going to get through. And it's weird when it's sort of frustrating when people say, unless you let it. There's a lot of things that I have to go through before I can just let someone love me for me. It's not as easy as just sort of flicking a switch and just being like, okay, yeah, cool. Especially when, you've dealt with heartbreak, you've dealt with betrayal, you've dealt with mistrust. Do you know what I mean? You've been out with hurt from people that you love, people that you never thought would hurt you. When you've had to go through things like that, it's hard for you to just flick a switch. Do you know what I mean? And that, it's hard for me not to be cynical now. About the world and about yourself. It's hard not to let hurt take over. I suppose that's what anybody who's going through something like this is trying to figure out. How to stop the hurt taking over. So yeah, with that, thank you very much for listening. Try and keep your head up. Try and stay strong, especially through these crazy times that we're going through. And that. But I hope you have an amazing day. I hope you have an amazing week. As much as you possibly can. Take it easy. And blessings to you all.